There seems to be utter silence.
You got your new kicks on, Dad?
Yeah, I'm trying to break them in.
All right, don't fall over the old kicks and break them in your.
Well, I wore them first.
Yeah, that's all I need.
All
Right
right.
under the-
Wow. So today, rather than me reading lots of poetry and things like that, I'd like to honor the memory of Michael's sister by adding a little extra prayer today so we can say Kaddish additional times. Michael, would you mind sharing like something about your sister with us so that as we're praying, we can kind of get a little bit of the flavor for spirit?
Okay. Yes, and it's such a good thing to remember your relatives, your side, so you can help fill in for me. My sister, Frances Unger Nay Simon, our birth name, was about 4.5 years older than me, and so I always kind of tracked behind her. She loved music, and she, actually made this book. Try and think of the piece. But and actually the reason why I was tearing up is that as she was dying, I was playing classical music for her. And for some reason, everybody in my family, including my sister, my mother and father, played some music on the radio. They all knew exactly what it was. My sister played the piano. My father could say who the pianist was. And even as my sister was dying in hospice, I was playing music and she'd say, oh, that's what it is. So, maybe that's what I'll say about my sister.
That's extraordinary. That's really beautiful. I mean, it shows the ability to identify the individual characteristics and the sounds around us, which is so much what the service is about. You've heard me many times, which is that the service is all about God hears every sound as music. And, you know, our heartbeat added into the squirrel and the wind and the people talking over there. So her ability to kind of to hear and distinguish amidst the sounds, the individual souls, and their individual character, you know, their addition to the choir. It's beautiful.
Yes.
Thanks for sharing that, Francis. And
Thank you.
remember to your blessings to this world.
And the piece was clear to Loon as she was,
Oh.
and she actually started crying because she said it was her favorite piece, and so that's why I was sort of thinking about it.
So I know what the moon means of the moon. What does Claire mean?
Light of the moon.
Light of the moon. And here we are at the new moon. We just had Rosh Chodesh. So, Claire's a moon, where the slivers are starting to build. That's beautiful. Okay, so that's why, for those who are joining us by streaming, that's why we're going to do a little bit of extra prayer tonight. And we're going to begin on 289. So some extra tefillah. Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha, Odu L'Chasela, Ashrei Shekacha Lo, Ashrei Shana Loha. Page 289 of the Love Shalom, or I think in the Sim Shalom, isn't it page 1 for Mincha? Tehillat Adonai Daber Piv Yivarech Kol Basar Shem Kodsho Le'olam Va'ed V'nachnu Nevarech Yam Yata V'yad Olam Hallelujah Yitgadal V'yikadash Merabah B'yamad Yivrakir Tevim Lich Malchuteh V'chayech Onav V'mechonav Chayetucho Bet Yisrael Bagalav Izman Kari V'imru Amen Yehesh Merabah Mevarach Le'olam Olam Me'amayah Yiparach V'yishtabach V'yipar V'yitramam V'yinaseh V'yitadar V'yitalav V'yitalal Shmei Kudesha Richu, please rise. Le'elam Min Kol Berchata V'shirata Tushbchata V'nechemata Damiram V'yama V'imru Amen. 291. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei HaKol v'Zocher Chasdei Havot U'Mevi Goel Livnei B'neihem L'man Shemo B'Yahava Melech Uzer Foged U'Moshiach U'Magehim Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Ufoged Sarah Tagibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayim Meitim Atah Rav L'Hoshia Mashiv HaRuach Morid HaGashem Mechakel Chayim Bechesed Mechayim Meitim Berachamim Rabihim Somech Nofim Berofei Cholim U'Matir Asurihim Mekayem Emunato Lishenei Afahar Michamocha Bal Gevurot U'Mido Melach Melech Meimit U'Mechayem Atzmech Yeshuah V'ne'eman Atah L'Chayot Meitim Baruch Atah Adonai Mechayei HaMeitim 293 Nekadesh Et Shimcha Ba'olam Keshem Shamakti Shemoto B'Shmei Marohom Kakatuv Hayad Nevi'echa V'Krazel Zevi Amahar Kadosh 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 Adonai Tzvaot Meloch La'aretz Kevodo Lumatam Baruch Yomeru Baruch Kavod Adonai Mimkomo Uvdivrei Kodshecha Katuv Le'mor Yimloch Adonai Le'olam Elohei Tzion L'dor Vador Hallelujah L'dor Vador Nagigot Lacha L'netzach Netzachim Kedushatcha Nakdish V'shivchacha Eloheinu Mipinu Le'yamush L'olam Va'ed Gamel Gadol V'Kadosh Ata Baruch Ata Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh 294 and forward are your own prayers. Yikadav Yikadashim Mirabah, Yamadi Rakirte, Yamlik Malchute, Bechaye Chonu Pimechonu Chaitucho Bet Yisrael, Bagalav Isman Karivim Ruhamein, Yehesh Mirabah Mevarachla, Lamalam Yamayaha, Yibarak Vishtabak Viparvit Mavinase, Vitadar Vitala Vitalash Mirkudesha, Brichu, Leila Mikuberchata Vishata, Tushkata Benechemata, Damiram Yamavim Ruhamein, Titkabal Toloton Baton Israel, Kodama Von Yvishma Vimru, Amen, Yesh Lamarabah Min Shemai, Chaim Alen V'Kol Yisrael V'Imru, Amen. Oseh Shalom B'Imru Mavu Yaseh Shalom Alen V'Kol Yisrael V'Imru, Amen. 301. We'll do this silently because we're going to be doing it out loud shortly. Ahaleinu l'shabeach l'Adon HaKol. המלכות שלך היא למד תמלוך בכבוד, ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. We may be seated except for those who are reciting Mourner's Kaddish. I'm going to ask Michael to lead the Mourner's Kaddish on 302. Amen. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam Olam Be'yom Hayah.
Yibarach Yishtabach V'Pa'ar V'Pa'ar V'Naseh V'Tadar V'Tavad V'Tolah Shmei Kudusha
Brichu.
Ve'elam Yikol Berchata V'Shirata Tishbachata V'Nechamata V'Amiram V'Aman V'Imru.
Amen.
Yehi Shlomo Rabbah M'Shamayim V'Chaim Alein V'Kol Yisrael V'Imru. Amen. Oseh Shalom V'Imrama V'Yaseh Shalom.
Amen. Zichronam Livracha. Let's continue directly into the Kabbalat Shabbat service and make our way quickly toward RV. We're on page 11. Lehu neranena lahadonai nari halitzor yishenu nekadma fana betoda bizmiro nari halo. Ki gadol Adonai melech gadol kol Elohim. Arba'im shana akud bedor ba'omar amtu elevavhem vehem lo yadu derachai asher nishpati v'apihi im yivon el menuchati on page 13. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz Shiru l'Adonai baruch shemo basru miyom liyom yeshuato sapru v'goyim kevodo bechol ha'amim niflohotav Ki gadol Adonai umehulal me'od norahu akol Elohim. Grandeur and glory are God's, honor God. Strength and joy where God is found. The sea in its fullness roar, the meadows and all that grows in them exalt. Even the trees of the forest shall sing praise. Adonai comes. Livnei Adonai kiva lishpot haaretz, yishpot hevel b'tzedek, v'amin be'emunato. We drift through from pages 15 through page, you think I'd have this memorized by now, 15 through page 21. For tonight, I'm just going to ask you whether you want to go through in the Hebrew or pick a reading here and there at the sides of the page to inspire you for your welcoming the Shabbat spirit. Is there anybody that would share anything that struck them from these pages before we sing Lecha Dodi? Is there any line or thought that came to you? Well, you know I'm going to share one if you don't, so I will. On page 16, there are many congregations called Or Zarua, but where this comes from in the psalm where it says Or Zarua Lat Tzaddik, and in the translation, light is sown for the righteous. It's such a beautiful image. I was rereading this week one of the many pieces in our tradition about the afterlife and its origin in the rabbis, not so much in the Torah, some sense of the afterlife in the Torah, but not much. But where it really grew out of the rabbinic struggle with how good people could suffer in this world. So when they saw a good person suffer, they just couldn't live with the fact that that could be. And this is generally agreed on by most scholars. And so they had this idea that the extension of time must extend so that at some point karma comes due. At some point the good that you put into God, put into the universe, does come back at you. It's just delayed on some level. And so the idea of the afterlife wasn't so much reward and punishment as it was trying to make sense of how good people can suffer. And one of the pieces they draw from the Psalms is this Or Zarua Lat Tzaddik, which in 3 words, what a poetic image. That energy is planted. Zarua is like planting a seedling. And that speaks to Michael and Wendy, because if you go to Michael and Wendy's house, there are seedlings literally planted practically in every room. If you give Michael a seedling, it will be planted. So like that it's like that, and Lat Tzaddik means for someone who's, when they see a righteous person suffering, and they may see they've lost their money, they're poor, they've had sickness or tragedy, that there's like this invisible, the Or is a God energy, by the way. It's not visual light. That like a little spark of divine energy at that moment is planted like a tiny little seedling in soil. And in time it will grow. That is Or Zarua Lat Tzaddik. Incredible image that leads to this beautiful image of how can this be? And maybe this is what's happening for the future. Is there any other image or line? You don't have to be so rabbinic about it, that struck one. Well, in that case, I'll allow these little fragments of kavanot to rest with you, and we're on page 23 for Lecha Dodi. So I would try to do different melodies. I'll just do this. Lecha Dodi likra kahala pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likra kahala pene Shabbat nekabela. Shamur v'zachor b'diborecha rishmiyanu el hamyuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad l'shem u'tiferet ve'litila. Lecha Dodi likra kahala pene Shabbat nekabela likrat Shabbat lechu v'necha ki mekor haberacha merosh mikedem nesucha sof maaseh b'machshava techila. Lecha Dodi likra kahala pene Shabbat nekabela mikdash melech emelucha kumitzei mitoch hafecha harav lach shebepehem mekabacha v'hu yachamol alayichem la. Lecha Dodi likra kahala pene Shabbat nekabela hitna ari me'afarkuhu milivshi bigdei tifartecha miyayad ben yishai beit halach mikorva el nafshi hige'ala. Lecha Dodi likra kahala pene Shabbat nekabela hitoreri kiva orech
קומי אורי 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה לך דודי לקרא קהלה פני שבת נקבלה לא תבושי ולא תקהמי מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי בך יחסו עניי עמי ונבנתה עיר אל תילה לך דודי לקרא קהלה פני שבת נקבלה והיו למשיסה שוסייך ורקו כל ועלייך יסיס עלייך אלוהייך כמסוס חתן הקהלה לך דודי לקרא קהלה פני שבת נקבלה ימין ושמאל תפרוצי וית אדוני תריצי על ידי השבם פרצי ונשמחה ונגילה לך דודי לקרא קהלה פני שבת נקבלה בואי בשלום תרפלה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה בואי חלה לך דודי לקרא קהלה פני שבת Nekabla. We may be seated. You know, every time we do that penultimate verse, Yaminu Smol Tifrotzi, and often I remind you that when this was written in the land of Israel, in the late Middle Ages, early modern period, by the Kabbalists, that spreading out, that this quote from Isaiah, that the Spirit of God will spread out to encompass the left and the right, was meant both to encompass Muslims and Christians, because they were well aware, because the Kabbalists were really emigres from Spain, from the Inquisition, that where they had experienced, some of them, the golden age of Spain, of Muslims and Christians and Jews working together. So they envisioned a time where Friday, Muslim Shabbat, Sunday, Christian Shabbat, and Saturday, Jewish Shabbat, that the Spirit of God of Shabbat would spread to the left and the right, to encompass Friday and Sunday, and therefore include a unity of the three main faiths. And I've also pointed out to you that they were also well aware, having come from Spain to Israel, of the divisions between Sephardim and Ashkenazim, and spreading out to the left and right from the land of Israel, Eretz Israel, meant spreading out to Africa and Spain for the Sephardim, and the Spirit of God encompassing the right, moving toward Ashkenaz. And so they viewed it as also a coming together of unity of the great divisions between Ashkenazi and Sephardi Judaism. But every time I read it now, with the divisions in Israel and the divisions in America and a recent rally in Waco, I feel like may God spread out to encompass the left and right politically, and join us together in the unity that the prayer was hoping for. We're on page 27. Mizmor shir liyom hashabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai. Let's read silently. Odunuvim b'seva, t'shenim rananim yihiyu, yagigi ashar Adonai, tzuri v'lo avlahat abon. It brings us to page 30, our Mourner's Kaddish for Kabbalat Shabbat, and at this point I'd like to read the names of the yortzites. We remember, but this congregation, the yortzites of Abba Baruch Amanoff, father of David Amanoff, grandfather of Michelle Hagia, Terry Arnkoff, Barbara Berliner, Eileen Susan Berman, Leo Binder, Marion Buckman, Haya Karmi, Ada Chaikin, Matthew David Coleman, Gertrude Doberson, Joseph Elias, Rhoda Martha Elwood, Sidney Fine, Rose Feinerman, Alan Fisherman, Nathaniel Frank, Lila Friedman, Bert Frey, Reva Gankin, Bernard Ginsberg, Harvey Gordinger, Menachem Groden, Ida Grossman, grandmother of Nancy Leon and Mary Schumann. Raina Jean Grossman, mother of Nancy Leon and Mary Schumann. Eugene Hoffer, Toby Jacobowitz, David Karp, Alvin Kushner, Eli Layden, Beatrice Laufer, Hetty Luxon, Barbara Marco, Stephanie Metz, sister of Doug Foreman, Daniel Niss, Walter Reiner, Samuel Rice, Ami Rosenthal, Lillian Rothberg, Fred Safran, Robert Shapiro, Wendy Schifrin, Keith Siegel, Sydney Sauce, Frances Unger, sister of Michael Simon, Ruth Vicker, Sidney Warchowski, Bert Westheimer, Theodore Zeller, and Phyllis Zeller. As we continue to remember Marty Lindenauer, Bonnie Rosenberg, Harlene Appelman, Lionel Finkelstein, Sidel Popinski, David Stein, Harvey Katz, Martin Warshaw, Gideon Hoffer, Lois Kluger, Beverly Bennett, Shlomi Weissman, Robert Haftel, Marilyn Krim, Robert Olenek, Ellen Monto, Richard Burke, Eva Kalani, and Susan Chapnick. For those reciting Mourner's Kaddish, please join me on page 30. Yit Gadal, V'yit Kadash, Shemei Rabbah, V'yalma Divra Kirute, V'yamlich Malchute, V'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lamei maya. Yibarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yinaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei Dekudesha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran v'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabbah min Shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. V'aseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. I know there's always sometimes some confusion when a yortzeit falls on a Friday or a Thursday night and a Friday, and I just want to let you know that because some customs, the yortzeit, you'll also say Kaddish on Shabbat. Because some people do with Friday, you do it on the following Shabbat, and some people do it with the previous Shabbat. That's why we read the names of both Shabbats, just to respect all customs and be inclusive. We spread out to the left and the right, and we reach both Shabbats. We're at the Baruch Hu on page 39a. Please rise. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. We may be seated. Baruch atah Adonai l'melech. Umavir yom umevid laila, mavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo, el chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv haravim. Page 40. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadeta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachveinu v'kumenu nasiach b'chukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'v'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu v'yorech yameinu uvahem nege yomam v'layla v'avatcha tasimenu l'olamim Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Page 41. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha v'hayu הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, ובישעריך. 42 and 43 silently. Adonai Elohechem, amen. Ha'aseh lanu nisim v'nekama b'Pharaoh. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה מרים ובני ישראל לחנו בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם. But before we go on, I'm going to call Charles. You have my permission to leave the bima any time. But for now, would you join me and help lead the service? So we're Micha Mocha on page 44. This will give you a different octave.
Micha mocha be'elim Adonai, Micha mocha nedar hakodesh, Nora tehimot osefele.
מלכותך ראו פניך, בוקי הים לפני משה, זה אלינו ויאמרו.
Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed.
ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, ברוך חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Let's read together in English on 45. Allow us, Adonai, our God, to sleep peacefully. Awaken us to life, O Sovereign. Spread over us your canopy of peace. Restore us with your good counsel. And save us for the sake of your name. Shield us. Remove from us enemies, pestilence, sword, starvation, and sorrow. Remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, for you, God, watch over and deliver us. And you, God, are sovereign, merciful, and compassionate. Ensure our going and coming for life and peace, now and forever. May you spread your canopy of peace over us. Baruch atah Adonai, who spreads the canopy of peace over us, over all the people of Israel, and over Jerusalem. Page 46 for Vishamru, and I'll join in whatever melody you start.
Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. בני ובני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Charles will lead us in the Chatzi Kaddish, please rise. We'll head directly into the standing silent Amidah. We're in the middle of page 46 with Gada.
Yikada v'yikada shemei Rabba.
Amen.
Ve'alma divra kirtei ve'amlich malchutei. Lecha yechon u'yom echon u'v'chayim b'chol beit Yisrael. Agalav yizman karib v'yimeru amen. Yeshmer Rabba mevorach. Le'olam yamaya yitbarach yitbarach v'yishabach v'yitpar v'yitroma v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudesha b'richu leila b'mkol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata Damiran Melma Yimuru. Amen.
Silently, pages 47 to 52, or your own personal thoughts and meditations. Those who are davening, please continue as Charles and I start up on 53 with a little song.
Hashamayim ve'aret ve'chotzevam ve'chal Elohim bayom hashvi melachto asher asa vayishbot bayom hashvi mikol melachto asher asa Vayvarech Elohim et Yom HaShvi Mekadesh Oto Kifo Shachar Mikol Melachto Asher Bara Elohim Lasot
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imoteinu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah Hayel HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanora El Elyon Konei Shamayim v'Aaretz Magen Avot Bidvaro Mechayem Metim Lemamaro Ha'el HaKadosh she'en kamohu Hameniach le'amo B'yom Shabbat kodsho Ki kvar asa lehaniach lahem
כי בם רצה להניח להם, לפניו לעבוד ביראה ופחד, ונודה לשמו בכל יום תמיד, מאוד הברכות. אל ההודעות, אדון השלום, מקדש השבת ומברך שביעית, ומניח בקדושה להמדושי עונג, זכר למעשה בראשית.
54. Our God and God of our ancestors, embrace our rest. Make us holy through your mitzvot. Let your Torah be our portion. Fill our lives with your goodness. Gladden us with your deliverance. Purify our hearts to serve you truly. Adonai our God, will you lovingly and will you willingly grant that we inherit your holy Shabbat, that the people of Israel who make your name holy may find rest on this day. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat.
יקרא ויקרא שמי רבה,
אמן.
בעלמא דברי הכירותיו ימיך מלכותי, וחייכון וביומכון ובחייכו בישראל, ועגלה בזמן קריב ויאמרו,
אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך,
לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה, יפרח וישתבח ויפאר ויתרומם וינשא, יתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי לקודשה, נעלה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תשבחתה ונחמתה, אמירם ואמרם ואלמה ויאמרו,
אמן.
תקבע צלותון ובאותון, דרכו ישראל קדם ופון דיבי שמיה ויאמרו,
אמן.
יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו, אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום, עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו,
Amen. 56.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת תרועה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשינו כגויי הארצות, ולא עשינו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, בגורלנו בכל עוונה. אנחנו קוראים ומשחקים ומודים לפני מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
Koach. We may be seated except for those who are reciting Mourner's Kaddish with me on page 58. Yikadal v'yikadash shmei rabah, v'alma divrach kirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayedecho beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabah mevarach le'olam olamei almaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitala v'yitalal shmei kudesha brichu le'elam min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran v'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shmaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. V'aseh shalom b'mromav v'yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Zichrono livracha. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom to everyone joining us by streaming. That concludes the service. We'll just have a little bit of closing song after announcements. And announcements are mainly that please read our emails, because all the announcements are in the emails. And the brief version is that next Friday night, March 31st, is the last Friday night of the month. And if it's the last Friday night of the month, it means it is Zoom only. So it is our special home Shabbat from the rabbi's table to yours. So I would really love it if you get on Zoom, light some candles, put a bottle of good kosher wine like Meg does right there on the screen. And I love it to be like a set of Chagall windows, but instead of the tribes, we have each of our homes, and it's really cool. So I'd like to see like what your Shabbos looks like. If you have a homemade challah, I want to see it. If you have a tzedakah box, so it's kind of like a big table. It's just it's just asynchronous in space, whatever that means. So next week we won't be here. We'll be on Zoom, and I hope you'll join us because it's fun because we kind of go around, and it's less frontal. Next Saturday, April 1st, after services, I'll do tips for a successful Seder, or I'll ask you for your tips to lead so I can lead a better Seder. And I know we haven't advertised it because it's a pop-up. Next Saturday night, there's a pop-up Jewish meditation and Havdalah here at Beth Israel. So Rabbi Elliot Ginsberg, and head of the Jewish Renewal Minyan, and member of this congregation, and of course professor at U of M, he's going to lead it. So that'll be at 7:30 it'll be April 1st. And that's not an April Fool's joke. You're not going to show up and find out there's no meditation. So we'll do a pop-up Jewish meditation and then go right into like a Havdalah, and that'll be it. And then we'll stream out. And so if we have 3 of us, cool. You don't need a minyan for Havdalah, and if it's more, great. So pop-up Jewish meditation April 1st. Passover Project, if you'd like to host people at your Seder or you want to be hosted. Right now, Beth Israel's tradition is not to have a big communal Seder, but rather go to each other's Seders. So like right now we go to the tradition of matching. And so if you want to be at someone else's Seder, have someone at your table, that would be really awesome. And just let Barb know in the office. And Rabbi Arik Asherman is coming to Beth Israel. And on this coming Thursday, March 30th at noon, will be a lunch and learn. Rabbi Arik Asherman, the leader of Rabbis for Human Rights. He's now the director of Torah Tzedek since 2017. He's pretty well known throughout the world as being a major advocate for human rights for those in the occupied territories in Israel, and but really being committed and sensible. He's not just someone who does the talk. He's someone who really is on the ground. And for people like me, that means the world. And so he's a friend of the congregation, and we're looking forward to having him back. And this is co-sponsored by Ann Arbor Recon and Beth Israel Social Action Committee and the Ann Arbor JCC, the Jewish Cultural Site, Pardes Hana, Rabbi Ginsberg, Temple Beth Emet, Unitarian Universalists for Justice in the Middle East, etc. And so that's coming up. This coming Sunday at 3 p.m., Seder Songs with Kenner Devorah right here in the sanctuary. Anyone who wants to improve or learn the songs of the Haggadah, of the Seder, please come. And, there's no assumption that you know them. Some of them are in Aramaic, so if you say you know them, I'm going to be very skeptical. I love it when something's in Aramaic. I was like, do you know what that means? I know what it means, Rabbi. I was in Israel. And I'm like, okay, translate the Aramaic for me. And then they're like, I meant it differently than you question. Talmud study with Rabbi Doberson is on Monday. And there are other things coming up. There was the BIC Everything email, which only has a million things about Passover in it. So please read that. You get the whole Megillah. Jerry.
Do you want to mention the Tuesday evening?
Oh, I'm sorry. And Tuesday evening, the Israel letter that went out to members of the congregation about our statement on Israel included the fact that we invited Vic Lieberman to present on issues around what's going on in Israel today. And Vic, who is an incredible resource, and we're so lucky to have Vic in the congregation. And Vic said, I'd rather take a larger view of basically how what's happening in Israel today is really part of a larger history. And so what we're going to do is I've asked Vic to postpone that a little bit so that we get the big view second. But this coming Tuesday will be a presentation from Professor Matthew Shugart on the narrow issue. So for those who want to know what's up with the judicial reform in Israel and what are some things I want to be more informed. So righteous indignation is appropriate. But I also want to be more informed about righteous indignation. Professor Matthew Shugart is leading world expert on the dynamics of constitutional systems and electoral systems. Remember that Israel does not have a constitution. It's an electoral system without a constitution. It makes the politics of it really crazy. And he's also an associate professor, or he's an affiliated professor with Haifa University. So we're lucky he'll be joining us from California. And Art, it will be Zoom only, because we're not going to fly him in just for, so the Tuesday night 7 o'clock presentation will be on the evening Minyan link. It'll be Zoom only, and Professor Shugart will present for only about 20 minutes and then take Q&A to kind of just help focus us immediately on the small. And then in a month or two, we're going to have Vic come in and try to take us down the iceberg to the foundation of it. Harvey. Oh, thank you. An evening minyan will take place on the same link at the end of the presentation. So I predict that evening minyan will take place at 7:45. So from 7 p.m., Shugart will present, I'll moderate Q&A, and then figuring at approximately 7:45, we'll head into Mincha Mariv. Thank you for asking. And thanks to everyone for coming. So before we do a closing song, and I'm just going to do a simple one today, I'm going to come off because they've already gone. They're like, I did more Scottish. I know we know you, and there's half of us are new. Like you're, Liz, you're like, you've been here 5-7 times already, so you're old. But I know we've introduced yourselves, but really, Friday night is about us more than it's about Torah. Would you tell us a little bit about yourselves and give us a little bit? Yeah. You first.
I'm Christina. Hi.
I know you're not exactly new, but let's not pretend I'd love to know.
So we moved here a year and a half ago because I did a master's program at U of M and in education, and I used to be a teacher, and now I'm doing a PhD at MSU in education. Yeah, that's what I'm doing here.
What's really good work?
We synagogue hopped a lot in the first year, and also weren't going out much in the first year. So it was really nice to find this space. I really like it.
I know it's sort of a small and cozy space, and so thank you for feeling comfortable here.
Yeah, we don't mind.
I'm always embarrassed because whenever I go to rabbis' meetings, they're like, "Well, I'm from this Washington D.C. shul.
Oh, I
We have 8 minions and 5 million people." And I'm always like, "Okay."
Yeah.
I never. That's a good point.
Your turn.
Your turn.
Well, I'm Alex. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana, originally. So
Oh, I'm from Peru.
yeah, she's from Peru. So I grew up Reform at a synagogue in New Orleans called Temple Sinai, and I've kind of been getting more into conservative Judaism as I've gotten older, which has been great. For work, I'm a finance manager for Lineage Logistics, big cold storage company in Nova, and I, really just do my job and play a lot of golf. It's really nothing too groundbreaking there.
Just in case you're coding or something for like the logistics of these things, if a couple of commercial freezers fell off the truck in the back, on the curb next to our kitchen, we wouldn't say nothing about that. Those things those are pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Always happy to, or to take some lightly used ones off the hands, for a write down.
Scratching it.
Yeah.
No, welcome. We're really happy to have you. So thanks for us. So with that, I shortened the close of the song, so we can do that. So let's just do a session. Oseh Shalom Bimrama, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru Amen. Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Just with full disclosure, you may want to come tomorrow because I'll be staying at home tomorrow. I've got some sick kids at home, and I figure, people around here are like, don't hang out with your kids at home. serve a chicken soup, so I'm going to do that. But I will be following on the stream. So that may make you want to come more tomorrow, so just let me know. So anyway, but Shabbat Shalom, have a great Shabbat.
No, absolutely.